This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz. Welcome back, me first mate. The joys of this show. Tonight's episode, Invincible, Season 1, Episode 3. Who You Callin' Ugly? Mark has to cut a study date short to help save Mount Rushmore from a crazed scientist. Robot deals with action. Comic as he assembles a new team of world-saving heroes. I think that means action and comedy as he assembles or something. I have no idea what they're trying to say with this blurb. Director this week is our good friend Jeff Allen. Our writers this week are, of course, Chris Black, Robert Kirkman, and Ryan Otley. The credits on all of this go as... Chris Black gets our written by. Created by goes to Robert Kirkman, and with a co-creator to Ryan Otley and Corey Walker. So, good Chris Black working so hard being that. Of course, Mark Grayson is played by Steve Ewan. Sandra Oh, the incomparable Sandra Oh, is Debbie Grayson. And J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson himself, is Nolan Grayson. So
he'll forever be Schillinger
awesome.
In my eyes. Forever be Schillinger.
Oh, yeah. And he'll always be Scota to me. That's the thing, you know? I mean... Where you first remember him from, there's so many great roles he's had over the years. He is really, and then for a lot of other people, he's just State Farm man. You know, oh no, farmers. Sorry, farmers. We are farmers.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is farmers, right? Yeah, we've covered it. Yes, he is. He is such a great character actor and just such a great actor in general. And honestly, like I said, I can't wait to see his J. Jonah Jameson in the upcoming Spider-Man. Get me pictures of Spider-Man.
Are we getting more of him as Commissioner Gordon at some point?
It depends. Well, no, because the
right?
new Gotham series has a black. I think the new Gotham series is spinning out of the Bat-Pat universe with the black Commissioner Gordon. So I think they've decided to make Commissioner Gordon black in that. I think, and I could be completely mistaken. I'm still waiting for my big screen book, but you know. Haven't had one of those since Batman '89, when he wasn't even called Bullock. But anyway, but this episode, so this is the episode where, what happens? Is this one where Omni-Man
it starts off with Omni-Man making a little speech at the funeral for the Guardians of the Globe. And it says some pretty interesting things that, you know, when you're first watching it, you're just thinking they're completely innocuous.
Yeah.
But certain things he says are like, when you've seen the entire series, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, you know.
Let me know right now.
Yeah, man, it is just so... Yeah, you gotta wonder...
There'll be more of me. We'll be here to protect you. People like me, you know, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, oh yeah, you know, well, that's the point.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
There's a glorious future if you just stand down.
Right. It's so funny watching it from that perspective and as an actor to watch sort of what he is thinking. Can you think that, what is the subtext the actor is thinking? And it gives a whole nother layer of enjoyment to that performance.
Yeah. And it really is a good performance. I mean, you know, and then you have the the real burial later, because of course they're not going to actually bury them in the public graveyard. They're going to go to the secret graveyard. That's where everyone gets buried, and they do the whole thing over again. And
that's where Darkblood confronts him.
Oh yeah, Damien Dark. It's who is. I gotta say, man, Damien Dark as the mystical Columbo is one of my favorite ideas. It just one more thing, Mr. Grayson. Just one more thing. Yes.
Oh, you'll have to excuse me. I'm not very well versed in human emotions and interactions. You gotta excuse me.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's just always. It is very much, and I think they've redesigned him a bit from what he looks like in the comics, made him a lot more demonic, at least I think. I'm not 100% certain, because I've seen some images of him where he looks very human, but I think the trench coat, I think they were definitely trying to make him look a lot more like Columbo in this, and, just this guy who's trying to, just little things that don't quite fit up, and I like that.
I like that they're not afraid to parody things. Like they're not tied down and take themselves so seriously that they're so concerned about being unique and having their own identity. They're just like, hey, it is something serious that we're doing, but we're not afraid to make fun of things along the way,
Right.
So they're not afraid to be like caricatures of things.
Right, and
like in that moment where they introduce Dark Seismic, they really want you to feel like, oh, we're comparing ourselves to the DC universe by saying, "Get ready for Dark Seismic," and they play that up, and those moments are really, really fun. And I like that they're not afraid to do that. They don't take themselves so seriously that they can't make those jokes.
Well, and I think one of the beauties of the show is that they are willing to be a comic book show. That they know that this is meant to be, and it's, this is one of these things I always say, I think it's a more realistic portrayal of a superheroic world when superheroes are more commonplace and they are part of the cultural dialogue. That was always one of those things where, when Alan Moore wrote Watchmen, he said, well, people aren't going to read comic books about superheroes when superheroes actually exist. They'll read comic books about pirates, which, sure, why not? But it's like, we have real cops, and yet we love cop movies. We have real wars and warriors. We love war movies, I think the existence of superheroes is just going to make there be more superhero memorabilia. And I think when they did the watch...
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for imagining something that isn't real. When something that you imagine becomes real, your mind needs someplace else to put that energy where you're looking to escape from the realness of your world and find like a fantastical way of thinking about ways to escape it. So that energy will still need to be expressed somehow. And I wonder where that would go. Would that go to aliens until aliens show up? And now okay, aliens are real now. Where does our fantasy mind go? Then will we go into demons and whatnot and the supernatural? And once we've exhausted that, where will our mind go then? I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that even when you meet aliens, there's still other aliens out there, Just because you sail around the world.
It doesn't fill that void of something out there that redefines everything. That specter of something unknown will always be at the back of our minds. I think that's just who we are as people.
Oh, yeah, but that's the thing. But what I'm saying is it's not unheard of to just base it off of what you already know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You already know, we know that, we know that various governments exist that do evil things. So we have stories where governments do evil things. We know
But we have way more stories about sci-fi and way more stories, especially now when times are uncertain, about mythical heroes and superheroes. We have a lot more of those right now. So, I mean, I think it's an interesting point to say that once they become real, what becomes the thing that's not real that we do fantasize about?
So what is the unreality that we next read? But then again, when you think about it, the entire evolution of the superhero is just it starts with the rogue bandit character, which really goes back to Robin Hood and, and then arguably even back further to the, heroes of old. It's like I say, Enkidu is basically Wolverine. And he is that proto wild man character. And then you have it's really the original story is Superman. I mean, in its own way, it's kind of like Superman Batman, but it's really Superman Wolverine team up with Gilgamesh and Enkidu, going about fighting various monsters and gods, and saying we're the dominant ones on this planet.
In Japanese folklore, like this wild man creature that's in the woods, that's half man, half beast, and it's just undefeatable.
Yeah, every culture has a wild man. I mean, because to be fair, we used to be wild men,
Huh.
And it was that idea that, those, once we started living in cities, there were those of us that didn't quite want to come into the city. And that is, in fact, that's actually one of the, if you ever take a Bible as lit course, because it spans so many thousands of years in its stories from the Old Testament to the New, you will see this dichotomy about this idea of being a city person or a country person, and how the country people didn't trust the city folk, and the city folk did not trust the country folk, and creating this dichotomy between them, with the idea that, the way to be was, and of course, and it's one of these things that in the early Old Testament, in Genesis and Exodus, it's always like, that pastoral life, that was the goal, and then when you come into the cities like Egypt, or, that's when the corruption occurs. But then as time goes on, you get to that point where, well, no, now we're city dwellers. So we're going to talk about being in cities and how cities are really awesome. And, we don't go into, and then we call the people who live out on the farms, all of the, Samaritans and, Philistines and, Galileans out there. Those are the people that are a little suspect with their ancient weird rituals and whatnot. So yeah, there's, it's interesting when you look at how stories evolve, how we focus on the things that make us feel the best about our current lives, right. Which is the other interesting thing. Is like, no matter how much we want to see something outside of reality, we always want to steep it in our reality, which is why comics in the 50s had all these commie villains and evil empires that we were fighting. And then once you get to comics in the 60s and 70s, now the villains are more, corrupt businessmen and corrupt politicians and the rot within the system that we have to fight against. So, that is the evolution of storytelling, because it's how do we envision the monster in our world, But yeah, it's very interesting. Getting back to this story though, Doc Seismic, he is meant to be funny, and this is meant to be a comic scene, but at the same time, people are about to die. And
they're not afraid to kill people in this show.
Oh yeah, we know that.
When the father drops into that lava, you're really like, oh my god, are they going to kill him? And when he saves him, you're like, yes. But even then, you're like, yeah, but is he just going to die in a hospital later? That sense of danger is palpable in every scene, because they're not afraid to kill anybody.
And when you think about it, they leave him up on the top of a mountain. So it's do we even know that he got out of there alive? And we assume that that they showed up and they put him in. They had the helicopters come. That there was damage control at the end of that. But it is interesting how it goes, and Doc Seismic being this, they do play.
Handled his powers, like when he's trying to fly, he goes bangs him like this and uses the sound energy to propel him in the direction that he wants to go. I think they handled that in a really cool way that felt like it had gravity, like it belonged in that world. Yeah,
well, that's actually based off of. It's interesting. As far as I know, the first time that trick is used is with a character named, I think his name is Vibro, who is basically like this. He's a seismologist with earthquake powers, and they actually reference, I believe it was the Orion program, which was this idea of using nuclear blasts to power you at near light speed, because you just drop a nuclear bomb out the back of your rocket ship and you'd ride the wave. And so that was the idea, is that he could fly by just pushing down with these explosions and throw himself into the air. But, yeah, and I love seeing Adam Eve in action, although we also get in this, her problems with, Hector. What is his name? Rexplode, yeah. God, he is such an awful human being. Rexplode, and him with Duplicate. Yeah. Which is, honestly, first off, Duplicate, really, is that a good use of your powers? Is that filling you, or are you just so needy for attention?
Well, although it's interesting. He told her they were done, so, if somebody gives you a believable enough story, when you're like, I can.
No. I mean, her doing the foursome with Rexplode. Like, is that a good? I mean, if I could duplicate myself, I don't know that's the best use of my powers. Am I going to try to
teach their own? I figure it's 4 points of excitement. 4 points of, and 4 times as impressive a crescendo. I don't know.
Well, I mean, for him, yeah.
No, for her, too. For her. There's 4 angles where she is finding enjoyment, and she is all of them all at once. So she is feeling every bit of, touch and whatever. So she has it's almost like you have multiple people working on you, but you're the one working one person to work back on you. It's a really interesting concept. I think it's fascinating.
I guess I could
not
see
to explore all the time.
Although, do we get the prison scene in this one?
The breakout of the twins?
Yeah. Or is that the next episode?
That
is this one?
Yeah.
Because we do see that there is another character who looks like 10 guys in a prison. So I wonder if later we're going to find out that she has a brother, who is also, diplomat or something. I don't know. But yeah.
So we do get, the breakout happens in this episode, which is great. Which is the first time you realize, like, they've been saying you're the clone, but this is the first time we get the expendable nature of both of them, and then you're left wondering. It's like, okay, so they're both just clones of clones. There is no longer an individual or an original.
Well, yeah, especially because we get. Well, do we get the rebirth in this one, or is that next episode?
No, but they've been saying they're clones this whole time, so it's like then you get the sense, okay, one of them is always expendable.
Well, exactly, it's the idea.
You don't know this by now. And when he says that, you don't know what I'm about to do right now, it makes me think that, yes, the one that was sacrificed was the younger one, because I don't know if you get born with all the memories that you get, that you die with, right? So he might not be aware of the last time he was sacrificed, and that is a dynamic that might play between them. The last one to come back doesn't know, but he might still have the memories from before the last death, so he might still have some inkling of it.
Well, what it is, because I mean, and not to spoil it, but what we get is the way that the system works. Neither really ever knows who was the clone. Although it seems kind of obvious that you could, like, I am not the clone right on your arm. So see, we wrote it down this time.
Or if you have a tangible memory of creating the other one.
Well, no, because that memory. The way it works is
you both go to sleep and you both come out. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's why if you write down Memento style.
Yeah, you got to do that, man. But maybe that's sort of the deal, because, as you say, it's entirely possible that there hasn't been an original in the entire time. They might be long past that,
Right, because the original might have died, and then the clone had to reclone himself, and then the game's afoot.
And so at that point, it just becomes more practical to just not just to play the game. That's
of what their powers are. We get that great scene where everybody's trying out for the new Guardians of the Globe, because Cecil asks Robot at the funeral, "Hey, I need somebody else to head up the new Guardians of the Globe," and this is where we sort of get a little bit more inkling into the relationship of the CIA or the whatever they're called, and Omni-Man. He's like, yeah, he helps out, but he's never taken orders, at least not for me. And you see that stark independent streak, almost like Captain America had. Like, there's a higher ideal that I strive to. And that's the way I took it in that moment when I first heard it.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like he doesn't want, and it makes sense from our perspective as people who don't trust the government. That if you're the superhero, you're not going to want to be tied down to this shadowy organization,
right?
Because especially if you are an alien like Omni-Man, even if everything else, that there's no difference between the Russian version of this organization that's going to be sending their super soldiers after you as this, or that they're all just people trying to fight over this globe, which, and again, for Omni-Man probably seems very primitive, Why do you fight when you could just have utopia if we all just work together and agreed to live under some sort of benevolent authority?
Right.
Which raises the question, how benevolent can any authority ever be? But that's for future episodes. We don't want to get into spoiler territory here. Because right now, young Mark Grayson's still learning his powers and how to do catchphrases, and then he realizes, it just always sounds stupid. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
The clips never sound good. It's always really bad dad joke puns. Yeah. Okay. But it's part of what you do.
Yeah, that scene with everybody trying out was really great. You get to see everybody's powers on display a little bit, get introduced to all the new team. And that scene with Rexplode and Monster Girl is great. Like, you start off hating Rexplode, but like by the end you're sort of like enjoying hating Rexplode. That's the best way to put it. It's not right. That's the most I can say about it.
He's like Wyatt Russell.
Right. Kind of.
He's like, it's like John Walker, where, except John Walker gets a better arc than this guy. This guy is just, he's just Reggie from the Archie comic books with superpowers. That is all he is. He is Eddie Haskell with superpowers. And that is...
You get the sense that he's sort of helpless in that regard. Like, he's insecure, he's broken, he's like not sure of himself, he hates himself, and so like that's the only way he knows how to treat the world, and you kind of almost feel bad for him, because he's incapable of being normal,
right? And I understand that, and that is, and it's sad. It's sad,
right? I think that's where some of the enjoyment in him being kind of an annoying character comes from, maybe.
Yeah, but we do get, and it is interesting because we do get that in the breakout of the Mauler twins in this, that Robot is the one who broke them out. And that is the interesting thing in this because, what Robot's game is, especially with everyone calling, it's like, what do you know? You're a robot. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it to be like, he was one, like, because, you have Robot Man in the Doom Patrol, where it is a human brain in a robot body. And I'm thinking, is it something like that, or is it, that he was a human once, but he had his mind transferred into a robot? What it eventually winds up being is very cool. But in this moment, it's like, and we also get his initial interaction with Monster Girl.
Oh, right.
Oh, Cecil.
No.
Well, Cecil
that as well. Early, right.
Yeah, Monster Girl, which is its own weird thing, because again, it is this idea of, she's a grown woman, but she's in this body, and it's like, the only people that are interested in me are either prepubescent or people that need to be on a watch list. It's really awful, but at the same time, it's like, I understand, because people see me a certain way too, and I'm not what people think I am.
Yeah.
It is interesting that her powers have this thing where every time she uses them, she gets younger. And I wonder how long that works, or how long that goes.
So she says she's 24, but appears as though she's 14. So she lost 10 years over the course of 24 years through normal use, right? So
yeah.
Assuming
we don't know when she gained her powers.
Rate of use, or the same careful thought about how she uses it, possibly in the next 24 years she could lose another 10, right? So she, in another 24 years, might be a 4-year-old. And at that point, she would just have to wait 10 years to become 14 again to start using her powers again, and she could hypothetically be immortal.
I mean, that's the thing is, she could be immortal.
But it would require a lot of restraint for decades at a time. And that's a concept. Kind of like, I'm 10 months sober now.
Exactly.
Like, 10 years sober now. Can I use the power again? I might lose some time. And it could always be a race against time. What an interesting concept.
Yeah, and to be fair, we assume she hasn't had these powers since she was 10. So presumably she gained these powers, and she said she used to be Monster Woman. So I'm guessing she gained the powers sometime in her 20s.
Oh, interesting. Right.
And over these last 4 years,
she's
has used them so much that now she's lost, from that. So let's say she was 21 or 22 when she got her powers. Then in the last 2 years, she's lost 10 years. That is crazy.
So she would have to... Oh, so that also, consequently, wouldn't that mean that the time she'd have to wait to redevelop, or would that move at regular time? I would move at regular time, I guess, right? She'd have to wait 10 years to have 10 years to burn. Ugh.
Exactly. And then it's, although she's still using her powers... So whatever, I'm guessing that maybe she loses more as she gets that basically maybe when she gets closer to her end point, it might be a diminishing return. So at a certain point, she just stays. Maybe when she gets to be 10, she just stops losing age and she can be Monster Girl. She can be. I mean, maybe. She said, though she does say, you'll have to change my diapers, if I do this, and if I do 2 practices a day.
That's a hypothesis, though. She doesn't know that for sure. Yeah. That's just her assumption at this point.
Exactly, and that's what, the relative age to use of power function will be something I'm sure Robot will figure out.
Also, shrink rate, I really thought they were going to do the Ant-Man up the butt trick with her, but she went in his ear instead. Now, is that guy dead? So it wasn't blood that he spews when she goes around. My thought was she just went in there, played with his eardrums and the inner ear liquid, and just made him really nauseous, which was nice on her part, not to kill him.
Well, I mean, that's training. They're not trying to kill each other.
Fair enough.
It wouldn't be. This isn't the end of the first episode. This was not. No one's trying to kill the other person. They're all trying to. They're trying to defeat people within a real fighting situation, but at the same time, everyone here is still a superhero. We're not trying to actually kill anyone.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
But that's actually how you
almost goes nuts on her explode.
Yeah. Well, because she's kind of a Hulk character.
Yeah. And what's cool about it, though, is... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's how you often see them when they have to take out the Hulk. That's his, weak spot, is his ears. And, they'll send the Wasp in, and she'll, screw up his eardrums. And he's like, whoa, what happened?
Right.
And that's how Batman... Because Batman boxed his ears, and that's how he was able to defeat the Hulk. Boxed his ears, kicked him in the solar plexus.
Really? I mean, I'm not even going to dignify that with a response. That's outrageous.
It works within the context, but no, it is kind of ridiculous. Fair
enough. It is fairly ridiculous. But what I found really interesting was that, Invincible has his moment where he assumes the mantle of leadership without having to be told. It just felt like the right thing to do, and we get an inkling as to his character in that moment. And also, you get a little sense of the maturity of Monster Girl when he wallops her and he's ready for a fight. She's like, no, you're right. Thank you. I needed to be calmed down. I apologize. Hey, sorry, Rexplode. That she is much, much wiser and older than her years.
Well, exactly. Because it's, it's a mess, but these are superhuman beings in this world, and they all have to do what they have to do. Okay, is that everything this episode?
Oh, the other thing is a tiny little mention of that monster that Omni-Man fights, and then Cecil tells his underling, hey, put that on ice. We might need that later if it's not dead yet.
Yeah.
The big kaiju that he fights. And I thought it was really interesting, like, things are coming to fruition with Omni-Man and Mark's mom. Where he's like, the way I interpreted that scene was that she didn't really understand what she was asking Mark to do in that moment, where she's like, no, let's talk about your feelings. And Omni-Man's like, listen, if you're going to do this job, you have to shut all that off when you walk in the door. You have a duality to your responsibilities now that exists one set of responsibilities in this end of the pool and one set here, and you have to keep those separated. And he's trying to make that point to him again. And again, Invincible had that moment in the hospital. It was like, Dad never talked to me about this. And now his dad is trying to explain to him the rigors and the toughness of the job, and he's like, no, I'm too in my feelings, and he's just like, that's what was a little frustrating. But on the same token, Debbie is her name, right? Debbie. Yeah. She's like, man, but like something is off ever since Mark got his powers. You've been all weird, and then I think Damien Darkblood comes visits Debbie in this episode as well. And man, the stress that this guy must be under, and especially considering like how we're looking at the motivations of Robot right now. In this moment, I'm even more like, okay, Cecil and Robot are the real bad guys, and Omni-Man's the good guy. And look, nobody believes him. If they just believed him, we'd all be okay. Omni-Man's got us. You got to let him, And Debbie's like, no, something's wrong. And it's like, you don't understand the pressures this man is under. So but that's playing up that whole aspect so well. I'm like completely like, I get it, but you don't get it.
Yeah. You see, for me, I knew stuff was problematic the minute that Mark really starts turning into when people start doing that anti-demon prejudice against Damien Darkblood. Yeah, it's like, oh, they're gonna believe the demon, It's like, you're a demon and it really is like, dude, just because I'm a demon doesn't mean I don't know what it doesn't mean I don't know what's going on. And that's why Damien Darkblood is my favorite character so far, because he is this guy who clearly knows a lot of what's going on, and probably knows more than even Omni-Man does. Because Omni-Man thinks he's this, but, quite frankly, as a demon, probably Damien Darkblood knows way more, is way ancienter, has seen much more, has seen what happens to Viltrumites when they do finally shake off this mortal coil, knows more about what's...
Do you think the existence of Damien Darkblood implies the same backstage area to all these dimensions and universes? So, like, if the Flaxons die, do they go to the same backstage area as Earthlings? Is there the implication that there is a unity to the backstage area, while there is the plurality to the multiple stages all have the same backstage? Is that the implication with the existence of Damien Darkblood?
I mean, that would be I would imagine that. I mean, it's always possible that there are other shadow realms and magical realms, but I gotta feel that, once you go into those magical realms, once you have places of eternal torment and punishment, that, they don't care, where you punched your clock. They know where you're going, because...
an interesting thought, if there is a reflection or a translation of that world to each world.
I mean, that's a possibility. Although, to be fair, the Viltrumites are in the same world. The Viltrumites are in this universe. So if a Viltrumite passed, they go to the same place.
So does that imply like a broader, like you're suggesting, a broader layer of wisdom, a broader layer of knowledge, a broader layer of understanding of the mechanisms of the universe that Omni-Man would not have as being simply just a mortal,
a temporal being,
surroundings kind of being.
He's a temporal being, and that's the thing. It's like being temporal is different, you know. And you can say he's immortal, but you know, is he immortal, and what does immortal mean?
Right.
If you're temporal,
I guess he can be killed. I think he can be killed. He's just super strong, but he's not. You know.
They can kill Superman. They can kill Omni-Man. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
All right.
But yeah, I think those are some of the important. And I think this is the episode where Mark goes on a date with crap. Why can't I think of her name?
She's played by Zazie Beetz. I'll tell you her name right now. Amber Bennett.
Amber. He goes on a date with Amber, a study date with Amber.
Yeah, and they have this study date.
Right, and that's his first encounter with the responsibilities of the job. Cecil keeps calling him. He doesn't pick up, and she goes to the bathroom, and she's like, hey, when the world needs you, you pick up. Do you want to be a superhero or not? This is what's going to take. And he's like, all right, I got to do what I got to do. And then he goes and fights Dark Seismic. And then he comes back, and Amber is still there?
Well, she wants to, you know, she's sticking it out. And,
it seemed a little strange to me. It almost seemed like she was a Cecil plant. At that moment, I begin to think, like, what is, like, that's an outrageous thing to do. She's, like, really trying to be close to this dude when at every angle she's given opportunities to be like, you know what? Nah. Right? And she's, like, overbearingly there. And the level of interest that she seems to show in Mark doesn't belie that sort of clinginess. So it's a little weird.
I mean, to be fair, he's a handsome guy. He does say the right things at the right times. And, you know, he has been vulnerable to her. So it's like she gets stuck there. She's reading his comics. She seems to enjoy them. You know, they actually have some kind of a nerdy connection. So I'm guessing that she's willing to put up with stuff for now. Yeah. Although I think she makes it clear by the end that, you know.
Yeah, that is the case. But in that moment, I'm so suspicious of everybody because at this point, I'm still like, there's a sneaking thing in the back of my brain that says Omni-Man is evil. And I don't want to look at it. So I'm looking at every other thing to pose as like, okay, I bet you Cecil planted her. So that can't be true, you know?
Well, you know, and this is what you always have to remember. Just because someone's evil doesn't mean other people aren't evil too. You know, that's the real sticky wicket of the whole thing is that, you know what, lots of people could be evil in this. All right, Mozzie. I've enjoyed talking to you. I know you've enjoyed talking to me. Many people may not have enjoyed listening to us as well as they could have because they may have been using substandard headphones to listen to this podcast, Mozz. And that is just unforgivable. When for mere pennies, maybe like a few pennies, maybe like a couple hundred pennies, maybe like 1,000 pennies or so, they can go over to tweakedaudio.com, use the coupon code Southgate, and get high-quality, both wired and wireless headphones to listen to all of their podcasting needs, which would be lovely. Likewise, they can use that same coupon code Southgate upon checkout at huntkiller.com. And if you like podcasts, if you like true crime podcasts, why don't you just be a true crime podcast? Go to huntkiller.com and help Michelle Gray solve a cold case. She sends you the clues, you piece them together, figure them out. It'll be fun. If that interests you, even if it doesn't, go down to our show notes. Go to Amazon.com. You can buy anything you want. But if you click on our link, it's going to take you there, and they're going to know we sent you, and that helps us out. But while you're there, check out Podlife, the book written by the Southgate Media Group family about podcasting, which you might enjoy. If you like podcasting, you might like to read about podcasting, and you can get that both in a nice hard copy that you can pass down generation to generation after the robot apocalypse, or also, for right now, you can get a nice digital copy that you can read at your leisure on the subway, on the bus, at the beach, however you like to read your digital books. And if anyone does that and they want to talk to you, Mozz, how can they find you?
They can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZ MANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. Of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things like Legends of Tomorrow Sunday nights, when I remember to. At Charlie Esser, that's CHARLIE, ESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
Quality.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you scurvy dogs, you've made it to the end of another voyage of these crazy internet seas. Disembark and enjoy your day in Pablo San Lucas or wherever you are. And coming back aboard for more adventures on Full Stream Ahead. Arr.